we have AI, actual individuals, and that's who's able to really truly acknowledge and understand what it is the shopper is looking for.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Strategy with Jason. Today, I have a very special guests, plural. I have two very amazing guests with me today, and I am so excited about getting into our topic because I think it's such an incredibly timely topic, and I got two of probably the most expert individuals out there on this topic. We're going to talk about everything and anything it takes to be fully engaged, all right, with the leads and opportunities that are coming into our dealership. All right, guys, today I have the one, the only, the oh so famous Brandon Murphy and Kara Marshall with me from ActivEngage. Hey, guys, say hi to everyone. Say hi.
Hello.
Hey, guys, I thank you so much for taking the time to come jam with me today. I've been really looking forward to recording this with you guys because it just feels like it's been one of those topics that like I have been having probably more often than I'd like to have right now. And I told you I wouldn't go into it, but for everybody out there watching, listening, I've gone back into having to buy a couple cars, and I forced myself going through a customer experience, and whoo, it's been fun. And so I'm really, like I said, I'm so excited about getting into this topic of fully engaged. But here's what I'd like to do, guys, for everybody out there right now who's watching and listening right now, and kind of don't know who you are or what you do at Active Engage and kind of like how long you've been there. Let's start off there. Carol, I'll start with you, and then Brandon, I'll ask you the same. Carol, when did you get into Active Engage, and kind of what is your roles and responsibilities right now?
First of all, thanks so much for having us. We love having these conversations with you. I joined Active Engage shortly after it became Active Engage. So I've been with the company almost 17 years.
Wow.
I'm currently Chief Operations Officer. Initially, when I came on, I structured the conversation and kind of set out what that unscripted conversation should be. I came from the dealership world, from the background back in 98, 99, when websites were just getting started and we started to see this traffic on our virtual lot. And so I knew from a dealer perspective, I knew what I wanted to know. Who were those people? What were they interested in? How can I satisfy what it is they're looking for? And that's the basis from which Active Engage was built, was from that perspective of how do we help dealers increase revenue, increase profit, increase CSI. Because especially all these years later, and I know we'll get into it. It's not just about leads. Leads are pretty easy to get. It is about revenue increases, and customer satisfaction increases, that customer experience. So my daily roles and responsibility is over all of our messaging operations, quality training, as well as our customer care department. Every account has a personal account manager, and I work very closely with those folks to make sure that we're being good partners to our clients, as well as working with the marketing team and sitting in really cool meetings with our development team as well.
Well, it's cool because you've been there, right? Like, I mean, you watch this this thesis, this belief, right?
Yes.
And you watched it kind of grow from kind of, like I got an idea,
Yeah.
into into just the balance of just technology and people, and look, it's gonna be so cool. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Hey, Brandon, I know. Hey, me and
Hey,
you hung out just a few times, but for everybody out there who don't know you, Brandon, just give us quick little just background, how you started at Active Engage, and kind of what your role is there.
yeah. Thanks, Jason. Hello, everybody. Yeah. So I joined ActivEngage just about 10 years ago. I now currently run the business development department, which really has a heavy engagement with our sales team, but also our strategic partnerships. So both sales as well as getting into kind of the partnerships that we have out there that allow us to continue to do messaging across multiple platforms outside of even just the website. It's interesting that you say to Carol about growing over the years. I mean, even in the last 10 years, the changes that we've gone through uh, between COVID and just the change in the industry has really been amazing to see, even in just the last 10 years that I have been there as well. It's ever changing, and we're changing with it.
You know, it's funny you bring up the last 10 years because I'm totally with you right there. And I think me and you've probably had this conversation, I think, kind of once before too, right? Like the customer, what blows my mind is how much the customer has changed in 10 years, right? Like, look, I don't think there's any dealer out there that we're watching or listening that disagrees with us. Like being more fully engaged with, with our clients is a good idea. I highly
Mhm.
doubt someone out there is going to go, yeah, that's dumb. I'm not doing that, but I think it's the expectation now, right? Like the customers aren't like we're not just, the customer are not just saying, "Hey, we want it." They're expecting it. And,
Yeah.
they're expecting to be engaged the way they want to be engaged, when they want to be engaged, all right, and with information that they're looking for. And that's really kind of the thesis of this whole podcast today is like, what does it take to be
Right.
fully engaged. So, Carol, I'm going to start off kind of with asking you, and then Brandon, the same. Is just kind of your guys' like kind of just overarching overview of like this is what I believe it takes to be kind of a fully engaged dealer these days.
Yeah, I love that question. I love that I get to start first, because it really does start as a broad view and understanding of the market. So millennials are the largest demographic. They're more in number than baby boomers. They have surpassed baby boomers. So you have millennials, the largest demographic. You have Gen Z, and then of course Gen Alpha after them. And what did all three of these demos grow up with? Technology. So they went through school learning to research online, get their own answers, ask their questions. They were inundated with 24-hour news. So they also understand you can have facts one day, but be influenced the next day by additional information. And the dealers that understand that and provide that experience when they're out there online and researching and end up on your dealership website, the dealers that understand you've got to fully engage, interact, give them the experience, because data also shows they will pay more for a good experience. So, not just giving them a form or a
Mhm.
little workflow to go through, but truly engage with that customer base. Those are the dealers that are winning and will continue to win in the future. Our mission statement for over 10 or 12 years has been to create meaningful conversations that build trust and encourage action. And we mean that both internally and externally. And that's why we have the tenure that we have across all of our departments. We have people who've been having these online conversations with dealership clients for 8 years, 9 years. So, who do you think is going to be able to do it better? You know, and that's what's so exciting is because we watch that market, we watch these demographics, we watch quarterly. Yesterday, I had a meeting talking about the end of the year and what do we think that volume is going to look like, and what we know those conversations look very
Yeah,
different.
like during the holidays and stuff like
Yes,
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, than the conversations you have today. And so we ensure the team is ready for that conversation to build the trust and encourage action for our dealers.
Yeah, because you're right. I mean, it's like it's not only at the holidays, it's like we're it's the end of the year blowout, we're clearing
Yes,
inventory, like the preparation of that, I love the fact that you said earlier too. It's like, it's like there are activities and processes and technologies that are required to be fully engaged.
yes,
And the partnership element. I know Brandon, me and you have talked about this in the past of just like what does it really mean to have a fully engaged, like partner. For me, I kind of look at it as kind of like almost like a first impressions partner. Like who can I really kind of lean on to really kind of execute this first impression, because like we all know, like we're all consumers. We've bought stuff, we've engaged with other brands before. Like this is not a new thing. And it's just like, you go to engage the first time on most, like you were saying earlier at Carol Welling, most dealerships, like, let me give you a form. Here's a first name, last name, email address, phone number, birth date, shoe size, blood type, and firstborn. And then I'll take that. I'll shove
Right.
Right, it is. It's ridiculous how
Yeah.
long these are. And then I'll shove that into a CRM, and then I'll send you a template letting you know that I appreciate your time, but I don't respect your time because I'll get back to you whenever I want to, not when it's convenient for you.
Right.
Brandon, I
Right.
know you got some thoughts on this too. What does it really take to be a partner, a fully engaged partner with dealerships? That's where I was going with it.
Yeah, of course. And I think it's important to stick on that point of that first interaction. I mean, the biggest thing here is to be fully engaged, you have to treat all of your interactions, whether it's phone, website, or even walk-ins, the same way. I mean, at any given point, you have 70 people in your online showroom to your one that's walking into the dealership. So you
Mhm.
have to treat each opportunity the same. And all of those require a personalized experience. We have to ingrain ourselves inside that dealership process by starting the same way they would if someone walked in. If someone walks into the store, they're not going to hand them a form, like you said, inside the store and not talk to them until they fill out their name and information.
Well, one point maybe, but no.
They might have that iPad at the front at some point, but online, people are accustomed to doing similar, and you can't. You have to be there and being that first interaction, because oftentimes we are the first people to interact with that customer, and to provide them with that personalized experience from 100% live human is important. And it's important to continue to build that rapport and that relationship that does, as Carol said, drive action. I think I mentioned it before. We've changed since COVID. And part of that change is now when a customer chats in, they're not just chatting in to get information, they're trying to decide if they're going to do business with the
Mm,
dealership.
absolutely. Yes.
And that's a big point to understand, that to have the right person answering your conversations when it is often the first time that person's reaching out to your dealership.
Well, look, and I love the fact that you said person. Like, I really want to emphasize that, right? Because I think for everybody out there watching and listening, if you don't know Active Engage, and they bring this beautiful symphony of both people and technology.
Mhm.
But it is definitely a people driven solution. And which is one of the things I've always loved about you guys. And we've talked about this before, because as a dealer principal, me putting my dealer principal hat back on, like I run my business as being a people business.
Right.
And, we talked about this earlier. And Carol, this is going to be my question for you, is because, going to your point, Brandon, like that first impression, like what am I trying to achieve in that first impression? A, I want to build rapport. And then B, I want to like qualify them to kind of, what they're looking for, right? Like qualifying, like, can I answer the question? Do I need to get them
Right.
into a different department, a different person? And like, it takes a person. And I love to Carol to kind of like, you guys have committed to this kind of what I would consider a pretty labor intensive
Mhm.
approach to the first impression, but you did it for a very specific reason. So can we kind of dive a little into that for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely. Because people buy from people.
There we go.
And, ASOTU, and I love that organization, they've drilled into our heads, love people more than cars. Well, love people enough to put people with them and build that relationship, right? Um, we have AI, actual individuals, and
Love it.
that's who's able to really truly acknowledge and understand what it is the shopper is looking for. We've actually started this Behind the Bubble series on our YouTube channel. I would encourage everyone to go to YouTube and find the Active Engage channel. We have various videos with our senior manager of training and quality that explains our philosophy behind the conversations. And when we talk about tenure, Camilla is someone, she's our senior training of manager and
Mhm.
quality, and she's been with us 13, 14 years,
Wow.
training these conversations. We do have managed AI. We have a digital assistant
Of course.
helping the humans provide the facts, the features, whatever it may be in that conversation. But everyone would admit to you today, a machine cannot interpret what it is that shopper is looking for. And there's a fine art to just acknowledging, yes, I understand that you're looking for this vehicle. Trade is important for you, whatever that is. I like to remind people when you're going through a drive through restaurant and you place your order to a person
Right.
uh, through the speaker, what do you do next?
You engage with them.
You, right. You sit there and wait to hear your order back. You don't pull through. You don't move on.
True. Yep.
Same thing as in the conversation. Until a person has said, I understand safety's important for you. I understand you're trying to stay within this budget and you prefer a small sedan. Give me just a moment while I see what we have available for you. You know, then that shopper is ready to proceed on. And then we're so blessed with the technology and having the in-house development tool, our integrations, and a lot of this is due to the hard work of Brandon. We integrate with so many great tools for digital retailing. Our agents are trained to pick up on that cue. Let me save you time in the dealership. You can go ahead and fill out this credit application. You can go ahead and fill out this trade form. And we encourage action, right? We get the shopper to continue down that funnel. So then the dealer's not just receiving a name and a contact, which is, you know, worthless. You got
No,
to have
and
more to it.
it is, and I hate to say it, but that's kind of what most companies are kind of out there for, right? Like their objective is to provide the dealership a lead.
Right.
God, I hate that word. I gotta be honest with you.
Mhm.
Like it's just like, okay, so wait, you took it far enough to collect their first name, last name, and email address, but you just couldn't push it just a little bit farther to build a rapport or get qualification or qualify them to kind of what information they were looking for and who they need to ultimately talk to. Like, now it's funny. I just think that like we fall short, right? It's like we're just this close from the
Yeah.
finish line. Let's just get there. Now, one thing I did want to, I wanted to do, I find rabbit holes sometimes. Like that's what I do. I find rabbit holes. So, Carol, you mentioned something that I think is really kind of important because I've talked to a few dealers. I know Brandon, this is right up your alley. So this is my kind of question for you. We have these multiple touch points, right, Brandon? We were talking a little bit earlier, right? We have phone calls, we have walk-ins, we have DR tools. There are people in the service lane that are also selling. Like there's all these, and one of the things I've always been so stressed out about is that I start a conversation with somebody and then maybe they're not there. I get transferred to another department and I have to restart that whole bloody conversation
Yeah.
all over again. You guys have taken this very unique approach of kind of just bringing it into a single place. And Brandon, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's comes down to just really continuing to want to provide the history, but
Mhm.
I mean it's integrating into the sales process. So we need to integrate in the sales process just like the salesperson in the store.
Mm.
So our goal is to continue that conversation regardless where they come in from. So if that customer comes in on that SRP, we may know they're already interested in a specific model, for example, or even get down to the trim level. So we're going to pick up where that customer's ready, and we expect the dealership to do the same. So as we're having the conversations, we're going to take cues on even previous conversations that have happened with that customer to continue to drive them down that sales process, so that we can eventually, as Carol said, drive them into the digital retailing process, which then does hand that off to the dealership for them to pick up where we left off. That's one thing that we do talk with dealerships about when we onboard them is we talk about using our chat agent's name when they're reaching out to the customer for the first time. Make sure you're reading the transcripts to continue that conversation. And don't start over because we've already had, and this is going to surprise you, I think, on the sales side, we've already had a 10 to 12 minute conversation. And that's what it takes to be fully engaged, just having that full conversation of whatever customized conversation that customer needs for that chat or message.
Well, look, it just provides a better experience, you know? I mean, like, how many times and this has just recently happened to me, so that's why I was like, "Oh, I found a rabbit hole, I'm gonna go down this one." You know, where it's like I started and I had this great conversation with somebody online, and then I come into the dealership and they're like, "Okay, I'm sorry, what were you looking for?"
Right.
"Oh, I don't know if that one's still here. Does anybody know? Does anybody know where the keys are? I need to
Yeah.
know where the keys are." You know, it's just like, wow, you know, it's just like, you know, and I feel the frustration because I've recently done it myself, but I know a lot of people out there are feeling that same. It's just we don't have this kind of linear engage process. It's kind of like, you know, it's like it's this like up and down, and you have these valleys, right? So you'll get like kind of really excited and all this, and then I got to come into the dealership. And
Right.
it's like, let me
Right.
just start everything all over again, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And that's
horrible.
and that's why we've really started over the last few years, and Carol mentioned it, built
Mhm.
into some of these major digital retailing partners that we have. And through the conversation, when we catch those key words, we're going to push them into that digital retailing process and then guide them through the experience. And we do that over 20% of the time. So we're
Mhm.
getting customers to do more online, which then makes the in-store process faster.
'Cause you're guiding them, and see, and
Exactly.
Carol, I got a question for you on this one because it's just like, we've talked a bit about, you know, stuff in the past, and, you know, I like to call it the dance, right? Where it's like, it's this transition between, you know, your people,
Mhm.
my people, uh, technology, and it's like it's this dance, and you guys have taken this very, very specific and unique approach to it, and I'd love it if you kind of just kind of described kind of the why you guys kind of approached, you know, the dance the way that you guys have done it, because I find it very unique, where I find a lot of other companies kind of will do this on off on off.
Right.
You
Right.
guys get really linear with it. I'm curious why you guys made that decision and kind of how that came about.
Yeah, it's because we came from the dealership world. Myself, Ted, our CEO, our CTO actually developed a CRM prior to this company. We all come from this automotive background. And so with the rise of technology, and I spoke about millennials, Gen Z, to watch how conversations come in and how they transpire. So when SMS started rising, messaging started increasing from places like Facebook, those conversations have a different rhythm than chat. And so our development team, we are our biggest user of our software. Most of
I
our
love that.
clients are managed. And so when we saw this different rhythm to the conversations, we ask our development team, how can we have these work differently within the console? And so we have different queues. So a chat is in one queue, SMS is in one, messaging. So a Facebook conversation, if it's sales, can still be 10 to 12 minutes, but it may be spread out over 17 hours. And
Mhm.
so, how do you certainly get the information to the dealer, so they can start to follow up, but also leave that channel open. So if the shopper wants to come back in and continue to provide that hot button information, we can append those leads and keep that going. It really is a partnership. We are the meet and greet, the needs analysis. Let me get you, I love food. This will be my second food reference in 20 minutes, but that's okay.
A little hungry, Carol.
Um,
You a little hungry?
we are the hostess or the
Yeah.
host in the restaurant. Let me find out, where do you want to be, inside, outside, under the fan, seeing the
Mhm.
TV? What is it? And we get you in the right spot. We get the consumer in the right spot so the dealer can make the magic happen. And we get excited about that.
Well, and that again just really adds to the experience. I mean, look, you know, we hate when we walk into any type of retail environment and we are just left there on our own to kind of figure out,
Yes.
what do I do next? Where do I go? You know, this is
Yes.
one of the things that maybe why I love Apple products. Maybe one of the reasons why I love going into an Apple store.
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I love dealing with Apple geniuses. It's great.
Yeah.
They're not behind a desk. They're scattered all over the place. They're very well identified,
Yeah.
and I can guarantee you, you walk into any Apple store, you're greeted in the first 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And it is just like, "Hey, welcome. Super excited you're here. Like, where can I help navigate you?" And it's not one of those like, "Oh yeah, go to the back, take 2 rights, 1 left, and then turn back around, you should hit it there."
Yeah.
Like
Or
like
or what's your name and number and someone can call and let you know.
exactly.
Uh,
We'll get back to you on this. But
yeah,
I did wanna go back to you, because you mentioned needs analysis,
yes.
and I do feel like there's been kind of this lost art of this, and I don't wanna use the word clerk. Alright, fine, I'm gonna
Yes,
use the word clerk.
yeah,
I'm gonna use it, alright? I'm probably gonna get some haters for this one,
yeah,
alright? But, I've had like I said, I've been going through this experience. I'm not finding, you
yeah,
know, what I am used to it being a needs analysis, and this is one thing that I feel is so cool about you guys is Brandon, to my question, because you guys have approached this in a way that will ensure it consistently that process happens every single time.
right.
Tell me a little bit about how you guys approach the needs analysis.
So, I mean, the needs analysis in the end is really just they're discovering the undiscovered needs.
Mm,
So we need to understand what the customer's needs are in the aspect of why are they chatting in, why are they coming in, and we use our ability to build a relationship to get that out of the conversation. You'd be surprised at how many times customers will come in and just openly tell you why they're looking for a car, whether it's because they got an accident or they're buying it for their 16-year-old daughter or son who just turned 16. And we use our relationship building to continue to gain additional information based off that first statement.
that's
Uh,
awesome.
and we can only do that because it is a live human, because
Yeah,
they're able to provide that empathy and understanding and really become that advocate for the customer
Mhm.
and truly understand what they're looking for and continue to add on to it to provide that additional information about really where that customer is looking to go.
yeah.
Yeah, it
I
really kinda adds to the whole thing. Sorry, Carol, you were gonna add to that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just gonna add, everything Brandon said is absolutely true from a
Mm,
customer perspective. That's what we're focused on is opening that relationship and allowing them to share, right? But from a dealer perspective, we are asking the customer, do you have a trade-in? What is your time frame for buying? The questions that the dealer needs in order to best fit that consumer with where their needs are. I mean, they may think they're ready to go from a truck to a small sedan so they can zip in and out of traffic. But if the consumer's only driven a truck for the last 9 years, that may not be what really suits their needs. And so that's where the product specialists in dealership can come and kind of bridge that gap.
mhm.
But we're the ones providing the information to allow them to do that and be prepared for that.
Well, and that's so impactful, right? Because maybe I'm just, for any managers out there watching, listening right now, I'm putting my manager hat back on, right? And I'm just thinking back to the thousands of deals that I have desked over my career,
Yeah.
right? And it's just like, look, I desk to the best of the ability of the data that I'm provided by my salesperson, right?
Yes. Right.
And this is why as a manager, I was obsessed with the needs analysis,
Yeah.
right? Because I knew that, I might get more than one swing at the
Yeah.
ball, but
Yeah.
not more than 2 or 3 typically
Right.
ever, right? So,
Right.
like, if I couldn't really kind of come into their needs with my foot first best approach to it, then
Yeah.
really I was playing from kind of a disadvantage, right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
when you guys are able to collect that information, I can really, look, it's different. Like if you got a customer that's saying, "Hey, look, I just totaled my car. All
Yeah.
right. I need one like now." All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Look, as a desking manager, that's going to change my entire approach to it, right?
Sure.
If somebody is saying, "Hey, look, my lease is due in a few months, and I'm kind of contemplating going to the bigger unit with the more features," it's like, "Hey, that's cool, and I love it. Let me kind of." But again, the way I'm going to approach it is still going to be wildly different, and you guys give us that ability, and I think that's so
Yeah.
cool. Carol, I'm sure you've seen this play out very successful. Can you give me an example where this has really kind of played out really well? You've seen it play out in a dealership?
Oh, when I was in the dealership,
Mhm.
or for a client of
For a client,
ours?
yeah, for a client, like,
Yeah,
I'm just
I
kinda
I
like,
mean, look, we always ask, are there any other vehicles you're interested in?
"Oh, that's a
So
good question," right?
98% of the time on a sales conversation, they're coming in asking, Is this the price? Is it still available?" One of those two questions. And while we are going to answer those questions, we always ask, are there any other vehicles you might be interested in? Because we want to give another path to
Sure.
that dealer, right? And you would be surprised. Sometimes there isn't, but more often than not, there is. Well, I did kind of also like this, whatever that other option is. So, and
Or
especially
that option's better for their budget, something like that. Right, right.
Absolutely, and especially today where, inventory is better, but in many cases, everybody wants the same vehicle, which has kind of been true a lot of the years, but, you really wanna have that other option for the dealer to work with.
And that's a good point too, where I have seen customers really are willing to look at multiple different options,
Yes,
because there's just so many different variables right now in the market.
yes.
Just even variables just within in the incentives and the interest rates, the lease residuals. I mean, it can be wildly different, not just among different OEMs, but also just sometimes in just what single
And
OEM.
gosh, do we think it might be different in Q1 then?
No kidding. No, no, you're 100% right.
Right.
Anyways, look, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our time today, but there was one thing I did wanna ask about because this has come up in a couple of my marketing meetings with you and your team, and I'm kinda like, I love it, but I'm fundamentally fascinated and aware and when it kinda started is this whole approach of no
No
scripts.
scripts.
Like,
Yeah,
you're talking to me, you make me happy when I'm saying
yeah.
that, because if it was up to me, man, I'd literally just stack those things up and throw a match on them. But, like, that's a big, bold statement, all right?
Yeah,
That's really bold because I'm gonna tell you, your competitors don't necessarily take
yeah.
that approach. So, Brandon, Carol, I wanna get both your guys' kind of thoughts of, like, big, bold commitment, where did that come from? And just fundamentally the why. So, how about I'll start with you, Brandon, then Carol, I'll get you kinda finish this off.
Yeah, I think Carol's gonna have a good part of this, especially with the amount of time she's had here. But I think from my side, I mean, it's all about the personalized engagement. If you have a script, people are gonna lean on it.
Mhm.
So the ability to have that personalized, customized conversation that really just depends on that customer's need, because we all know that not all chats from the customer are going to be about sales, and that's why we've trained our agents to handle not only sales, customer service, and parts as service as well. So we even do service appointments. So it's understanding the needs of that customer. Again, it really goes back to that needs analysis, and using that custom conversation to do so. The scripts can sometimes limit that.
Yeah,
Well, and they don't sound human. Like, I mean,
yeah,
right? It just doesn't sound human. But I mean, Carol, I gotta get this from you from an operation.
yeah.
It is such
So
a big commitment.
it used to be super, super scary, and I don't know why I was thinking about this last night, when we first started. So we've always tended to hire people from the hospitality field, so customer service folks, that's their focus. It used to not be unusual to have people in training class that did not understand Toyota makes Corolla. And that might be a risky statement to make here, but we train them and we get them all comfortable, right, with vehicles. And so you're like, my God, then why would you have those people chat with my customer with no script? Well, because you teach them about pitfalls, and you teach them about we are not going to get into finance rate. We are not going to get into lease rate. We're not F&I trained. And so we stay away from those types of conversations. And if you put the gutters up in the bowling alley, then these folks that are hospitality minded, they can work within that lane if they understand, here are the key, like, here's the mile post on the road that we want you to hit. It kind of unlocks their personality, and it lets them be free to really focus on that shopper. Is this a relational person? Is it transactional?
Right.
How do I need to interact? And they have that experience from their previous work experience. So the unscripted thing used to be frightening, and it was frightening for the agents. But again, now we have so many experienced people, both from training and quality, our supervisors, our subject matter experts. They have such support. Our technology allows people to watch the conversations, to whisper to the agents, and the consumer doesn't see it. That it's not scary at all. And guess what? We've never sold a brand new truck for $1. So
I
it's
know
okay.
exactly which story you're talking about, so that's actually pretty funny. I think people out there watching and listening probably know exactly which one,
Yeah.
you're talking about. I remember some AI did
Yes.
something along that lines. I won't say
Yeah.
who, but yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah. Script did not save them. Yeah.
Script did not say that. Look, I admire it. I really do,
Yeah.
right? Because, leaning on the script, to Brandon's, point that you mentioned earlier, it can be a crutch.
Yeah.
And, it really says a lot about your guys' commitment to the training, the coaching, and the development of the people that are behind your guys' solution, is because you're not giving them any crutches. There
Right.
isn't any, right? And
Right.
and 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 I think that definitely shows, in the tenure of your staff, just the experience alone. I mean, you
Yeah.
you have some people there that have been around a very long time. They're
Right.
committed to making these connections. And I gotta be honest with you, I find it fun to make connections. It's
Yes.
a fun thing. Like, I don't, dealers, I get, I understand if you guys are struggling and you're having a hard time with it. This is a great partner opportunity for you guys, but it's like, it can be fun if you get the right people, the right process, and the right technology in place.
Yeah.
Like, I know we're at the tail end of our conversation, but Brandon and Carol, before I let you guys go, for everybody out there watching and listening who maybe would like to connect with you and maybe even continue some parts of this conversation, because I still don't think there's probably still a lot we could flush out here, from a strategy perspective. I'll start with you, Carol, and then I'll get you, Brandon. What's the best way to connect with you, Carol?
My email is carol@ActivEngage. On LinkedIn, you can also certainly connect with me on LinkedIn. I am happy to have the conversation, answer any question. If you're a dealer who's trying to set up your own BDC and would just like tips on that as well for your team, happy to have those conversations. This is my career. I've been in the industry for over 30 years, and I'm happy to help anyone who would like to have the conversation.
And everyone, I do encourage it because this is Carol's happy place. So she
Yeah.
loves talking about this.
Yeah.
Hey, Brandon, for you, what's the best way to connect with you, sir?
Thank you. And yeah, my email is brandon@activeengage.com, as well as you can also reach me on LinkedIn. And I just want to really echo that part of what Carol just stated about. Please feel free to reach out with anything you need, especially when it has to do with messaging. That's one thing that we really try to do is we want to be a partner of our of our dealers that we work with, and we want to be there to support you. So you can always reach out to us anytime that you'd like to speak.
Yeah.
Awesome. Uh,
And stay fully engaged with us on that YouTube channel I told you about. I think you'll find it really interesting, the different videos there.
yes, guys, if you're out there watching, listening, you got to check out the YouTube channel. What was the name of the channel again? One more time, Carol.
It's Active Engage.
Yes. And then the
Yeah.
series was called what? Because you guys had a fun name for it.
Oh, Behind the Bubble.
There we go, behind the bubble.
Yeah.
You guys heard it. Go to Active Engage's YouTube channel, and look for Behind the Bubble. Hey,
Yes.
for everyone out there watching and listening, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Hey, one of the biggest compliments you can ever give myself or Carol or Brandon is share the show.
Yes.
That means so much to us. If you have a colleague or a manager or a friend that needs to hear some portion of today's conversation, the best and biggest compliment you can ever give us from a content creation perspective is just share the show. Again, thank you, Carol, Brandon, so much for you guys' time, and everybody out there watching